Well, good morning, everybody. Jess is like nodding at me like it just started. And stuff. I can't tell, so I don't know who's all there. So good morning to everybody that's there. Just like last time, right on time, right? Because that's how we do in logistics and operations. What we're going to come and what we wanted to talk about today was content and really sharing a lot of the experience. Every person that you see in front of you spends a lot of time on that and different reasons for it, different strategies, different ways that they go about it, very different styles sometimes too. So what we wanted to do is get into a couple of things. Kind of, we're going to go around, introduce everybody, share a little bit about where we started from, the content and why, the benefits and the opportunities that obviously have come from that, because I think that in the attention economy, a lot of that content, that's part of its goal for sure. And then obviously big lessons learned, right? The things that are hard to get over or that you kind of figure out through the years, but hopefully cutting that down. So you guys, if you want to get into it or kind of like ramp up your journey, maybe you can shortcut some of the things and learn from the scars, blood, sweat, and tears that everybody else has already gone through. So with that, we'll start off. We're just going to make it really simple and go around the screen. So we're going to start with Jess. So if you want to jump in.
Hi. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And please drop any comments that you guys have into the chat and we'll try to address them as we go through. It's going to be super conversational today. So join the conversation. We'd love that. So I'm Jess Wyndham, CEO of Solving Work, independent logistics and transportation consulting with a holistic view in terms of bandwidth, prioritization, disengagement, burnout, that sort of thing. But my content journey, I'm probably the baby of the group, started in July of this year. And I have been posting 3 times a week consistently and engaging 5 days a week consistently in order to achieve what I have today. And I will say LinkedIn knows when I take a break and the algorithms punish me for it. So, but that's me. And I got into it because as a solopreneur, you are your brand. So showing up in this space is really important for that. But I think I stay consistent because I get to interact with so many people. I get to meet new people. I get to make an impact. And I've seen that like actually happening through the content I post. And that definitely keeps me coming back for more. And I'll pass it to Matt.
Hey, everybody. It's Matthew Zarzycki, the self-described logistics ambassador. Not really with a brand, but the brand of myself currently. My journey is a little bit different. I've been kind of posting on and off for a while. I kind of really started getting more intense in the last year. The goal was to at least post 5 posts a week and kind of grow. And it was more about, self-branding, branding the company I was with, and kind of getting some thought leadership out there. And it evolved from knowing what to look for and what I want to put out as a thought leadership aspect of it. And it was very challenging at first because it's, you're trying to find yourself in everything that you do. And when you're looking for what is relevant, at first you're trying to find what's relevant for everybody. So you're like, oh, will this resonate with people? Will this do this or will do that? And, after a bit of a journey of doing that, you realize, hey, it might not resonate with everybody. You might piss people off. I've had comments from people that say, Matt, you post too often. Like, I don't like seeing that. Please stop. And I'm like, well, maybe it's not for you guys. And I apologize because I get far more of the positive ones out there. So I wait out, even though it might be from someone I, really respect. There's a lot of people that reach out that I really respect that say to continue it. So part of that journey is, you might get a lot of pushback for whatever you're doing, but keep it consistent. So I do it a little bit different, from the rest of the group. I do it 7 days a week, and I do it twice. Once on my own personal wall, more of my own personal thoughts. Then I do it in groups, and in groups I try to do more industry kind of perspectives, and that's why I kind of split up in that a little bit. And it kind of resonates for me because some people are looking for more industry content, and some people want more personal content. And I figured that was kind of a good way of splitting that up. That's it, and I'll pass it down to Jen.
So I'm Jen, and I am the founder of Ship Happens. Was a co-founder of my last company, so I got used to saying that. So I started doing content kind of a long time ago originally. I actually did content on another platform for another thing that was like kind of a side hustle my partner and I kind of did for fun. So then I started Ship Happens, and I was looking for ways to get a little bit more traction. And also I recognized that in our industry, like it is littered with a lot of like bro logistics dudes to follow. And there was like very few women. Like I looked, I could not find a lot. And I'm happy to say I've seen a lot more now. Like, I met Jess, and like there's a few more kind of popping up here and there. And I'm really excited to see that. I would say I also post differently both from Jess and Matt. Like I post when I feel like it. Like that sounds really crazy. And it's so like against everything that people talk about. But for me to get like the traction I usually get, and like for me to have like the quote viral posts, it's usually what my one-off comments where I'm like, ugh, I'm like feeling like saying something today. And when I say something that I really feel deep inside, that's when it seems to resonate the most. And so that's just kind of what I do now. Also, I run multiple companies, so sometimes I just don't have the time to post as often as probably the algorithm wants me to, but so yeah. And that's pretty much it for me.
Nice. Okay, so I guess I didn't realize I was everyone's so different. So I've been posting for about 4 years now on LinkedIn. Before that, I don't know when I signed up for LinkedIn, but before that I was a ghost. I didn't exist. So and I did that when I left a long-term corporate role, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to get out there and use it to make noise and kind of find my next thing, and it's going to be super easy. So that doesn't happen. And, you get really made aware very quickly of the fact that there's lots of people out there. Everybody's looking for attention and stuff like that. That being said, though, there's not as many people, right? In the same way that Jen's talking about that, there's not as many women. I would say, broadly speaking, for the amount of people that are in logistics, supply chain operations in general, there's not that many of us that kind of really get out there on a regular basis. So that's something that I started doing. My writing has been all over the place. If you follow me now, you'll notice it's very, very, very specific, very like logistics oriented, operations oriented. But when I first started, it was a lot broader. So to Matt's point, it was kind of like a lot of things that interested me. And I have people that I'm connected to today that I was connected to before. They got so tired of my stuff that I was posting, they dropped me, and we reconnected later when I kind of shifted, content around. And I've done like a lot of different type of writing, from personal coaching to just leadership stuff, like things that are really interesting to me. That's all on different platforms, and I haven't been doing that for a while. So really just been focused for the last probably 2 years, especially very heavily on the logistics, and very similar to Matt, probably again in the last year, really, really refocused and kind of do it. I do it now, I guess 6 days a week, because 7 now is newsletter day. So there's no Sundays. And the newsletter is like a different thing. I'm starting to bring back a little bit of the things that, you either don't get into on LinkedIn or that you want to go a little bit deeper on, because there's usually only so much you can fit. And yeah, I got into it really too, because of the fact that it's great to get your information out there. I find it's probably one of the best things to do to keep yourself current, because of the fact that you get a lot of feedback from the industry. So that's kind of where I'm at. How about we just think about just to give that. So that's the perspective. And by the way, it does take a lot of time. Just so in case anyone isn't sure, like Jen's point, it takes a lot of time, no matter what it is. Writing posts at 2 a.m. or sometimes 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. It doesn't matter, but there's a lot of writing.
Even that one sentence might take a little bit of time. Like sometimes that, you might just throw something out there and you spend an hour thinking about formulating that one sentence to make it resonate, because you want to make sure it sounds about right. So it's not sometimes just like you just threw it together, but sometimes it is. No. Sometimes it's like spur of the moment. I had an idea and here it is. And it hit.
Exactly. It's wild. So what we want to do is we're going to do two things now. We're just going to quickly share some of the benefits that we've each individually seen from, the content and sort of that attention that we're generating in the economy. And then, the last bit, we really wanted to talk about things like lessons learned and, kind of go back and forth and share some of these challenges and things that we've maybe solved or at least managed a little bit better these days. So we'll kind of go back around, just maybe like one or two quick, the benefits you're seeing from it and why.
So one benefit to getting attention is getting more attention. So it has really helped me build my network, get opportunities to do some speaking. That's one of my goals. So that's certainly a benefit. Attention begets attention. But the other thing, and I sort of mentioned this in my intro, is true connection. So if you put your things out there and people engage, and you engage with the folks that are engaging, that leads to real life networking. And that's honestly how I met the other 3 people on this panel. But I mean, countless meetings every single week with folks that engaged with the content. So it's really produced in-depth conversation that happens offline that you don't see in the in or on the platform, but it's definitely taking place. And that's, for me, the best benefit.
Yeah, I'll jump on that too. Is for me, it has been the sense of community. And like-minded community, because when you work at a place, you might find a few individuals, but here you kind of niche yourself into a community. Like Jess said, all these people on this panel I met through LinkedIn. I didn't know any of them prior to LinkedIn, and that was the kind of socialist, because we kind of connected and we became good friends over time because we're all talking about the same thing. So for me, it was the community aspect of it that really benefited, and how your reach really extends. People reach out to me all the time that I've met personally. They're like, hey, are you still looking for something? Do you need help with something else? How can I get you to where you want to go? And people really just want to help. But you can't get to that sense of community unless you have consistency in your posts and your consistency in you connecting with people. It doesn't have to be front and center. And that's one thing I wanted to touch upon is, to your point, Jess, it's not everything has to be a post up front. And if you're not comfortable with posting on your wall and making it public for everybody, one thing that John does well, we talked about last night, was posting the background, and I'm probably still in John's thunder, is private messages to people and to connect them to them that way versus being up front and connecting on content. Not every content is visible content. And that's the other thing that I learned, is that invisible content is just as powerful, or as we call the black side of LinkedIn. And you get a lot of people reach out to you. I have had some of the ideas I put out there, people reach out to me like, that is fantastic. I can't talk about because I connected to that company, but here's some other ideas that you should really get into. And the amount of learnings that I learned because of that, that's what I really love. So community and learnings were the 2 big things for me. Now I'll pass it down to Jen.
I agree with everything that you guys said. Those are obviously benefits that I also see. I'll make it a bit more personal. I think the benefits I've seen is, one, I have a lot more confidence in myself, in my knowledge, my understanding, my intelligence, my viewpoints. I've gotten much better at public speaking, all of these things. It's a lot of development that actually happens from these engagements, these things you do, and being asked to be on a podcast for the first time, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing this now. And I've even been asked to do podcasts about other way random things on other platforms too, which is so interesting, because I do talk about some other things that affect specifically women in the workforce. And so I've been pulled onto podcasts regarding things like that. I think too, learning the understanding that authenticity is king. If you cannot be authentic on any of the platforms, you'll maybe get a bit of traction. It will start to fall off because people won't really understand who you are, especially if your voice keeps changing. We were kind of discussing that before we went live. It's weird when you see posts that definitely fully contradict somebody or themselves, and they don't adjust to contradicting themselves. I've backtracked on things before, but it's definitely because I've been I posted this thing and some people said this, and this, and I've now adjusted my view on that, and this is why. So I think that there's a full part of understanding that this you develop into a better person in logistics, a better networker. There's so many benefits personally. I know that sounds real selfish, we're supposed to be giving content for other people, but I'll take the personal growth too, honestly.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because again, part of that showing up authentically is peeling the curtain back and letting people watch you learn, right? Modeling that learning is a bit of the leadership. It's not just thoughts, it's thought leadership. And there's a lot of vulnerable leadership that we can do through what we present on the platform. And you make that wonderful point. It's like when we get to engage in a conversation and learn something new and change our viewpoint, sharing that process and normalizing that process is awesome.
Yep.
Well, and then there is some studies that go along with this too, especially when it comes to Gen Z specifically. They're very in tune. They want to see founders struggling to get to where they are. They don't want to just see the founder be like, everything's awesome, blah, blah, blah. Like they want to see what's happening behind the curtain. And so like in reality, if you build that kind of content, you're probably going to be attracting a younger audience, in all honesty. The older audience isn't going to like it that much, but the younger audience, the ones that are coming are the ones that are going to resonate with that authenticity and that vulnerability. And I think that's why I kind of enjoy it. Like I get to engage with people. Yes, the older people, I do attract some of them too, but I do attract a lot of younger audience. And I really enjoy that because they're bringing new and interesting ideas, things I never thought of before. And I look at things a lot differently sometimes now just because of those interactions.
Yeah, for sure. I now just to be clear, because I'll put it out there for you. Look, there are obviously, business benefits as well, right? If you're working for yourself or, you're working and you're trying to promote your organization, the reality is that there's a lot of same in the world, right? There's a lot of sort of middle and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But like, if you want to stand out, if you want to sort of, get a little bit more awareness and attention and, people asking questions about you, they have to know that you're there, right? So that, there is obviously that benefit that does come as well. So, to put that out there for everyone, because what everyone is sharing is also very, very true. So you do get business benefits in my opinion, obviously. You get additional benefits, even if you're in the workforce. For example, the better you write, and this is something I'm pretty passionate about, the better you write, the more effective and the stronger you're going to be in the office. Right? Because if you can clarify your thoughts, if you can sway a stranger audience, let's call it, or whatever, if you can put things out there, when you're in a room of your peers or the people you work with every day and you're making that presentation to the group, to the team, to the division, whatever, that becomes a lot easier. So it really does clarify and sharpen your thinking, which is a wild benefit. And you'll probably notice that that's going to spill over into all kinds of different areas of your life. It goes with the confidence that was mentioned, for example, as you get used to it. And, the other thing is too, is that it really accelerates your own personal growth in the sense of your learning, your testing and learning, how quickly you can adapt and change your thinking. And if you have a really open mind and you're really looking for, the best solution to type things and how do you actually solve the problems that people are having, you have to put stuff out there, because when you're quote unquote vulnerable first, or you put your position out there, someone is much more apt to reply and respond than them maybe taking that first step and saying, hey, I have a problem, I need help. It's way easier for them to be like, hey, I saw you wrote about that and I hate when that happens to me, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can engage and get different types of benefits on top of all of the other things that are very true there on the sort of the personal side and that growth and that confidence building that you'll get for sure.
I'm going to segue the conversation a bit if I can. I wanted to kind of draw a good point up. Like, how much of the content do you, because a lot of people on LinkedIn are always about, well, it's supposed to be about sales and building that brand. Like, how often do you think sales content really resonates with people?
I think it can depend. I mean, I think honestly these days more than ever, I think very salesy stuff like is tough. Like I think that, that there's so many systems out there and there's so many strategies when it comes to making offers that I think if it just comes, to Jen's point about authenticity, if it just comes off as very, formulaic or at most it's a commodity because it's a price push at the end of the day, I don't think that resonates a ton. Honestly, I mean, you'll get a certain amount of business, but I think you're going to draw in the people that are just looking for very transactional type exchanges, which in itself can be fine. But I think it's about really understanding it. So, for everyone talking about relationships, the quality of relationships, the type of business that really endures the hard times, I think that's where, the authenticity and the different type of connection starts to make a really big difference.
Yeah, I would add, like, people do business with people, and there are tons of options for whatever problem you're trying to solve. So a commercial is not as valuable as the seeds of a relationship. So maybe in the very short term, someone might maybe engage with super salesy content, but in the end, demonstrating your knowledge and expertise and your wealth of experience in your content is so much more valuable than a commercial. Giving some value, showing what you know and how it applies to the industry and who you are as a person, because in the end, especially if you're bringing in a consultant, that's personal. Like you got to like each other if you're going to be successful. So being able to do a vibe check on LinkedIn, I think is incredibly beneficial, and more so than, here's my service offering.
Oh,
I feel like salesy content can come off quite condescending a lot of the times. Like a lot of sales content that I've seen, it's like somebody dropping a breadcrumb, like a really stale, boring breadcrumb, and then being like, oh, if you connect with me and like hire me, then I'll help you. I'll give you more after that. And I'm like, the problem is like, if you're going to do content, you either provide value or you don't. Like when it comes to content, I think you either have to give me something that actually is actionable for me to engage with it, or don't bother, because most sales information, sales tactics, all that kind of stuff is regurgitated. It's all the same. It kind of looks similar. So until you can show me that you have value that I want to purchase, then why would I engage with that?
Well,
it's crazy to me.
Yeah, and that's a good point, right? Like I think the one thing that's a little bit different for all of us sitting here, and it's not not speaking about any other industry, but you're kind of talking or seeing people that do this in very different ways. Like we have different styles, different approaches and whatever, but we do similar things. But it's really content from operators for operators, people that have literally like lived it. And that's where the takes come from. And to Jen's point about value, it's like, I often will tell people what I think the best idea is. Like, hey, if I were you, this is what I would do. And I would do that for, and it's not because it's like, oh, I'm only going to tell you if you hire me or you work with me or whatever. It's like, yeah, I think that's the thing. But I'm also sure that when, we would be working together, there's probably all kinds of other things, right? Because everybody sees things differently, and that's the real opportunity with it. And that's where it comes from. So I want to try to make sure that we share a little bit with everybody, because the one thing that's really tough when you're doing content, especially when you're doing it regularly, because you make an investment, it's a commitment, it's not easy. Shit happens. Things go wrong. You don't like it. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't go the way you want. Like I can tell you, I'll start with one of mine, and I'll just tell you now, some of your best stuff, some of the stuff you are the most proud of and is the most insightful will absolutely, without a doubt, tank. And that post that you wrote about the burger joint will flourish. Like that's just what's going to happen sometimes. So there's my first contribution to lessons learned. Maybe like what's next?
Yeah, well, the algorithm's going to do what the algorithm's going to do. And man, when I have something that's so awesome and then LinkedIn doesn't show it to anybody, I was like, look at the engagement I'm already getting. It is infuriating, but I just come back the next day. So I feel you on that, John. That happens to us all. I think my biggest lesson learned is, and I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday, and people say this all the time. Every idea has already been stated. I don't know, humans have been on the earth for how many millennia? Like every idea has already been discussed. Somebody's posted it, somebody's published it, but your unique perspective, your expertise, that's something that can help somebody. You can turn the light switch for at least one other person when you say it again with your lived experience. And people stall getting started because they want to have this incredibly original idea, instead of saying, here is an idea and here's my take, and knowing that that's enough to put into the world, because the four of us could post on the exact same topic on the same day and you would have 4 completely different posts. So I think that would be my lesson learned is don't get caught up on that, and just post what you know, because you know stuff.
Yeah.
I would say for me, it would be like realistic expectations. Don't expect a one and done. Like don't expect I posted, it should be viral, I should get 10,000 offers on, a job offer, a customer offer, or whatever offer. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes I've had posts that have, 20,000, 30,000 impressions, zero content. Nobody makes a comment. Nobody likes it. It's just everybody's looking at it. Nobody's sending you a message. And then sometimes you send, have one that has tons of likes and everybody's making comments on, but not really everybody's looking. Like the algorithm's not pushing on. You have everybody's engaging, but only like 400 people have looked at it, right? And so it depends on what ROI you're looking for. And sometimes it's just putting that habitual position forward and doing it because you enjoy doing it and don't expect an outcome. So if you have like a clear goal that you want to increase your sales through LinkedIn, might not be the best thing, but people will gravitate you when you have a passion for something that you're doing. So if you're just passionate about what you're doing and you're constantly doing it, that goal will be achieved, but don't be like, this is the medium that's going to get me to that point is my thought on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say too. So like I've been dealing with algorithms for quite some time because of my previous little jaunt in Instagram. And I will say one of the things is I ignore algorithm now. Any of those posts that are like, oh, I can teach you about the algorithm. I can tell you what it wants. I don't care. I don't care what it wants anymore because it's constantly changing and every platform is different. So like I can't constantly be adjusting my content for every single different platform. So instead, I cross-post across multiple platforms. I use LinkedIn, Instagram, starting to use TikTok, and Pinterest. I think Pinterest is a widely underused platform because it runs so much differently than all the other platforms. So it only really applies if you've got a website or a blog or something like that where you're trying to drive traffic, but Pinterest is golden. It is so, so helpful. So in reality, like LinkedIn for me is for industry people and whatnot, but Pinterest is where I tackle the clients that I actually want, small and medium-sized businesses that need some help that aren't going to get help from other places, and are the ones that actually need the help. The big giant businesses, they're fine on their own. They can figure out their own logistics. But small and medium-sized businesses are the majority of the businesses out there and are the ones that probably need the most help. So that's kind of how I'm reaching some of those people. But I think some of the mistakes that people make is very true. Like you kind of sit there and be like, oh, well, what the algorithm wants. And then you adjust your content so much that you water it right down and then it's not useful to anyone and you're going to lose followers. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, yeah, I kind of want to know what the algorithm wants, but in reality, like, I can't control it. I can't really do much about it. And everything everybody says is just guesses and estimations. Like, it's not like LinkedIn's out there like, hey, this is exactly what we want for you. And this is what the algorithm is looking for. Nobody's doing that. And so these people that are like, pay me $20 and I'll tell you like what it wants. I'm like, no, that's a waste of my money and a waste of my time. So just focus in on what you want to talk about and what really makes sense to you. And then figure out which platforms you also work for. Like if you like using Pinterest, great. If you don't, that's fine too, but find more than one platform for sure, because then it'll give you a little bit more of a broader group of people to see your stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I think what's really important too, and just kind of touched on it is look, you can spend days making something perfect and it might really go well, but the reality is it's an attention economy. It's a 3-second economy, like in terms of attention, and it's going to be gone the next day, right? I don't very often regurgitate or sort of repost old stuff, like similar ideas, but different posts. Very, very rarely. I think I've got like 3 things where I spent days doing carousels, and I might occasionally drop those back, every 6-8 months or something like that. But the other thing that's important for yourselves is that if you write, it's like going to the gym. The more you write, the better you're going to get at it. And the better you get at it, like kind of the more it just kind of feeds itself. Like and this is these days, like some days I'm really unhappy with what I wrote. I'm like, man, this is going to tank. It sucks. But I don't have anything less. But it still resonates well because it, like the topic of this post, like 10,000 hours, like you put in so much time, you can still effectively communicate your message, even if you're not happy with it. So very often, unless you really feel that the quality is just not there or whatever, you're always probably better off to actually put it out and, get the training in, get the reps in, so to speak, right? Just like going to the gym, you're better off doing the 10 minutes on the elliptical than 0. You're better off doing like the 10 curls than none. And you're very often in a better position just to write. Sorry, just one thing. I see a question about artwork.
Well, answer the question above that. Let's take
Okay.
the real one.
Sure. Yeah.
Are there strategies to unify your community across platforms besides using a newsletter? And my only thought is stuff like this. Of course, this is a single platform, but you can stream to multiple locations. Like we're streaming to YouTube and to LinkedIn right now. And having more live events, I think, is one way to bring your community together. That's outside of, I mean, we're in LinkedIn, but is not content driven or post driven, and it's not necessarily a newsletter. But this would be the avenue that I would suggest. I don't know if you guys have any other ideas.
I think when it comes to, sorry, I'm losing my voice. I think when it comes to platforms, I actually don't unify my communities across platforms because they are so different on each platform. Each platform brings you a different community. So you have to kind of foster that community in that platform. Like the people that follow me and want to talk to me or reach out to me on Ship-ins on Instagram are very different than the people I engage with on LinkedIn. Yes, there are some people that are both. That's fine. That's because, they're just interested in seeing more content. Same with like on Pinterest, like the people that are clicking on my posts on Pinterest and going to my website are going to be different than the people that are on LinkedIn clicking on my post and going to my website. Yes, newsletters are fine. I kind of don't use them very often, to be honest. It's probably an issue that I should kind of look into. But, there's only so much time in the day. But yeah, I honestly don't recommend trying to unify your communities. If they do naturally, great. But I wouldn't like make it a priority, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because people have a different expectation on, the way you can write on LinkedIn isn't going to resonate very well on TikTok, as an example, right? Just having a video with text. So it's like you got to kind of really understand the audience. They might have a similar problem, but it's more about how do you leverage the platform, or what's the communication expectation of that particular platform and what works versus what doesn't, right? To try to get to the problem. We're running a bit over. Does anyone else have any closing thoughts or anything else that they want to share?
Well, one thing I just want to jump in quickly, because Jen made a point earlier and it kind of resonated quickly for me. Not every time that you're going to post, you're going to get that whale. Like everybody always expects that I post something, it's going to be Coca-Cola that I'm going to get, or Walmart or whomever. Your best wins are going to be small guys that your message resonates with you and you line with them, like what Jess was saying earlier, you make that relationship bond. And what makes the content that you put out very special is you find people that are like-minded. And what makes that special, it makes business easier. The worst thing that you have is when you have someone who has completely contradicts your way of thinking and you try to make a business relationship and it rubs you the wrong way because you didn't know them and they didn't know you. What content does, you can able to go look at what they've seen, how they see the world, and see if you guys line up. And that's how you kind of generate that business. Or even if you want to go look and prospect for customers, you can see what they write and you go, oh, I really like what you write and it resonates for me. And that's a far better thing than, oh, I like your product that you ship. What you say really resonates with me. I want to be part of that community.
Well, and just on that, because I was just thinking about it, but the other thing is you mentioned like, the dark social, and like honestly, you're going to realize that there's, for everyone that likes and comments and shares a post, there's like 10, 15, 20, whatever amount of people that are reading it and seeing it and don't. I had even a conversation this week, and the coolest thing about it was I just met the person. I saw that they looked at my profile and I reached out to them to connect. And when we chatted, it was like, oh yeah, a friend of mine sent me one of your posts to read. And I was like, man, that's awesome. Like that's really cool. Like that's really cool. And the amount of conversations that people will be like, hey, I love what you said here, or this or that, or this makes sense, Matt, to your point. Like this is how we work. And it's like, I've never seen you comment, post, share anything. I didn't know you were there, but so that's really important as well, right? There's a huge underbelly that's always there, where people are there like an iceberg. They're all under the surface, and not everybody's as comfortable with popping up above the water until they they need to, or whatever, or they want to in their own way. So it's always an important lesson to know.
Yeah.
One last thing that,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say one last thing I would add to, and this is for your own mental well-being. There are going to be haters. There's going to be people that don't like what you say, don't like what you do, don't like you just because of the way you look, whatever. And they're going to message you about it. They're going to tell you how much they don't like you. and you kind of gotta like be okay with that and be okay to just delete it, not respond. That's the easiest, to be honest. And then in your comments, you're gonna have people like fighting with whatever you've said, and it's up to you if you want to engage in it. If it's like a valuable conversation that makes sense and adds content value to your content, totally engage and in a meaningful and respectful way. But if someone is bullying you or being an asshole or whatever, excuse my language, then block them. Just block them. Like, you do not need that follower. You do not need that person. There is millions of people out there. Do not let someone like that take you down, because you don't need that. So.
No, exactly. So Jess, you're in control of the stream. So final thoughts, closing thoughts, wherever it is.
Yeah, no, I'm all good. It's real fun. I'm glad that we all got together and did this. I can't wait to do it again. And thanks for the participation in the comments. And thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.